looking coffee table. In a moment, I'll show you that, and then we'll come back and build one of our own right here in the new Yankee Workshop.
The new Yankee Workshop features the craftsmanship of Norm Abram.
Today we're at the Grace Family Vineyard. It's a small vineyard in St. Helena, California. The owners, Ann and Dick Grace, grow Cabernet grapes, which they turn into a very special wine. There's a limited quantity and it's very difficult to find, but once you find it, it's well worth the search. Now this is the building where they age the wine. Wow, look at this. I wouldn't mind doing a little aging in this building. It's a timber frame building and the details of the trim work are extraordinary. Look at these arched openings, all cased in clear redwood. And there are barrel vaulted ceilings in several rooms, also covered with redwood. I sure hope the wine appreciates it. And if all of that isn't enough, take a look at these entry doors, made from solid mahogany. This grapevine was carved by an artist, David Vissard. Now, wineries and vineyards are really the main event here in the valley, but there's no shortage of old homes. And if you're lucky enough to get invited inside some of them, you might find some collections of pine furniture. Now, we found this one the other day, and I wanted to show it to you. It's a coffee table. It's pretty straightforward. Turned legs, rails to connect the legs, and old pine boards just nailed into the rails. This would be a simple project to build at the workshop. Let's measure it up. Well, as we've told you before, there's no such thing as an antique coffee table. Coffee tables are a modern-day invention. But the coffee table that we saw in California was made from antique lumber, and so is ours. Now, do you recognize this wood? If you look along the edge, it appears to be oak, but this is actually chestnut. Now, chestnut trees have been unavailable for over 50 years because they were affected by some sort of blight. So if you want to build a piece of furniture out of chestnut, you have to find old timbers. Now, we were actually lucky enough to find some boards that had been resawn from old timbers, about an inch thick, and we used them to make our coffee table. Now, if you'd like to make this coffee table, a measure drawing is available with a materials list, and you'll hear more about that before the program ends. The first piece that I want to make today will be the legs. Now, I can't use the 1-inch boards for that. I need something larger. So when I was at the antique lumber yard, I found some old bits of timber. This, I think, was some sort of brace from an old barn, as indicated by this tenon at the end. Now, the first thing I want to do is check the timber for bits of metal. To do that, I'm going to use my high-tech metal detector. Any bits of metal will cause damage to my tools. Yeah, that side's clear. So far, so good. Oh, there's something here, though. Oh, there we go. Right there. One big nail. Let's see if we can pop that out. Ah. Now let's recheck it. All right, I think it's clear. Now, this timber is not very good on one edge. It's sort of punky and rotted and rounded over, but this side is pretty good. So I'm going to cut it right in half using my bandsaw, which is equipped with a resaw blade, a very wide blade with carbide tips on the teeth, which allow it to cut through this wood very easily. Now, before we use any power tools, let's talk a moment about shop safety. Be sure to read, understand, and follow all the safety rules that come with your power tools. Knowing how to use power tools properly will greatly reduce the risk of personal injury. And remember this, there is no more important safety rule than to wear these safety glasses. Also, be sure to wear hearing protection when necessary. Now, the bandsaw does a great job, but the piece is not perfectly flat. In fact, it's got a little bit of a twist to it. The way to straighten that is at the joiner. Next, I want to turn to my stationary surface planer. The objective is to make the side opposite the one that I've just jointed parallel and straight. The reason I don't do that at the joiner is because it'll simply follow this, and it may not be square or parallel. I want to make sure I place the jointed side on the table because the knives are on the top of this machine. Now that I have these two edges parallel and flat to one another, the next objective is to make this edge square to the sides. To do that, I'm going to turn to the joiner with the fence set at 90 degrees to the table. So long as I keep that straight edge tight up against the fence, the joiner knives will do the rest. Okay, now all four sides are square and parallel.
As open and airy as its Wild West origins, this house was designed to bring the great outdoors inside, with inviting rooms flowing into each other and no steps to climb. The ranch creates a leisurely, expansive lifestyle that is uniquely American.
The ranch house really has become an icon of Americana.
America's Home Styles, The Ranch. Wednesday night at 10 on HGTV, Home and Garden Television.
Some say 5 minutes can change your entire day. Inner bath showers. Imagine what 10 minutes can do.
Today at noon, it's HGTV's exciting hour of appraisals and antiques. Beginning at 12, the Appraisal Fair travels the country, appraising antiques and heirlooms.
I would think this probably would sell at auction for around $3,000. Wow.
Then at 12:30, Collectible Treasures looks at what's hot in the fascinating world of collectibles. Don't miss HGTV's exciting hour of appraisals and antiques. Today at noon on HGTV Daytime.
Okay, that's pretty good. Now, for the last few minutes, I've taken some time to carefully mount one of the blanks in my lathe. And I start by using the slowest speed to make sure that it's safe and turning smoothly. Now, while I was in California, I took some measurements of the profile of the leg and took a piece of hardboard and cut it out on my scroll saw. And this will become a guide for all the transitions of the turning. The first thing I want to do is mark the place where the top of the leg stays square at each corner. Now, this corner doesn't need to be marked because it's a little bit rough. And after I mark the corners, I like to take a dovetail saw and make a slight cut. And that helps to minimize the chance of any tearing out along this corner. Now, to begin the turning, I'm going to use a gouge. And what I want to do is round over the blank from the saw cut all the way down to the bottom. With the lower part of the leg rounded, I can now set the template on the blank and mark all the transition points, like here, at this point, down in this area, one right at this point, one down in here. And these will be marks that I will be able to transfer all the way around the leg as reference points. Now, you notice I've taken the template and attached it to this stand. It's a visual reference, so as I turn the piece, I have something to look at to see how the profile should be cut. Okay, now we're ready to start actually doing the turning. And the first tool that I'll go to is a skew chisel. And I'll use that to start making the cut right at this area here, the pointed section. Okay, we'll give it one more check. That's pretty good. Now for a little sanding. Well, let's take another look at our prototype. The legs are connected by these rails, and the connection between the rail and the leg is a mortise and tenon joint. So I want to cut a mortise in this side of the leg and in this side of the leg, and then I'm going to round over the outside edge. Now to make the mortises, I've set up my hollow chisel mortiser. I have a 3/8 inch chisel and a bit. I've adjusted the depth of cut to be 1.5 inches for the mortise, and I've set the guide fence so that it's the right distance from the edge. On the leg itself, I've simply marked out the top and the bottom of each mortise. All right, 3 more legs to go. Now over here in my plunge router, I've installed a 3/4 inch radius roundover bit that has a ball bearing at the tip of it. The ball bearing will just ride up against the side of the leg.
DeVilbiss Air Power Company. The right tool for the right job. DeVilbiss Air Power Company.
Every minute of every day, someone buys a Clopay garage door, like the Sustmans of Stevens Point, Wisconsin, Ron and Rose Gerard of Cincinnati, Joe Dobus of Fort Lauderdale, and the Gropp family of Zebulon, North Carolina. Naturally, we'd like the next one to be yours. Call 1-800-2-CLOPAY. Beautiful, durable, reliable. Clopay, America's favorite garage doors.
I learned to swim at the YMCA. I was 3 years old and blind. Others focused on my limits, but the Y showed me my possibilities. I was the first blind person to complete Chicago's 2-mile swim competition. The Y showed me I could have vision without having sight. Now I train for triathlons, and my Y coach, he's swimming right alongside me.
We build strong kids, strong families, strong communities.
When this baby is walking babies of her own, these hardwood floors will be every bit as beautiful. Harris Tarkett hardwood flooring. Pre-finished wood floors for the life of your home.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Deardorff. Where would you go for a home equity loan? Let's ask.
Well, banks have the best rates.
But banks only lend money when you don't need it.
Advanta National Bank is different. They lend money to people when they need it.
Right. With my credit?
They made their first loans 45 years ago to teachers who had trouble borrowing. They helped out when others wouldn't.
This is a bank, right?
With customers who get the flexibility only a national bank can offer, right over the phone.
Got to move all your accounts there.
Nope, just call Advanta. One of their loan specialists will show you how to use the equity in your home to pay off all of your bills. Get one low monthly payment and save hundreds of dollars a month, plus a tax deduction.
You'll wait for some board to approve.
You'll get fast approval over the phone. And your money in about 10 days. You don't need to have money in the bank to get money from a bank. To get the loan you want, call Advanta at 1-800-453-0354. You'll see they're different. Hey, they don't keep banker's hours either.
I'm getting started this morning by taking some of the rough boards that I'm going to use to make the top for the coffee table and surface planing both sides until they're all uniform in thickness. Now here I'm laying out the boards for my top, and unlike the prototype that had a lot of wormholes, these boards are practically clear. But let's look at every one before we make a decision of how they're going to lay out. Right, this one is clear on the upside. Underneath there's some nail holes and stains from the iron. That's kind of interesting. We'll leave that up for the moment. This one, clear on both sides. Could actually go either way. This one has some wormholes right in the center portion of it, and some on the back side, but it has a split, which is not very attractive. So I think I'll leave that one with the best side facing up. This one, nice and clear on this side, and clear on this side, so we'll leave that one alone. Now this one has a knot hole where the knot fell out, and I like that, so we'll leave that alone, but let's check out the other side. Well, some more nail holes and iron stains. And since we found one in the beginning, let's leave that up for the moment. Here's another board, pretty clear on both sides, so that can go like that. Now, there's only 2 boards out of the 6 that have these nail holes and stains. And I think if all the boards had a little bit of that, I'd leave it all show. But since there's only 2, I'm going to flip it back over and leave them on the underside. Now, the next thing to look at is the growth rings. At the end of each board, we want to check the growth rings and alternate them to add stability to the top. This one, they're going up. This one, down. This one up, so that's good. This one down. Oh, and this one's down, so we want to flip this one if we can. And since this board is clear on both sides, we can accomplish that. And the last one is down, so that's good. Now, let's see how much overall width we have. Now, we have just under 47 inches, and I need 42, and that's good because I see some edge defects I want to get rid of. Right here, there's a split, so I want to rip off some of that. I saw another board over here which has a split along the edge. So we want to rip off about 1 inch there, and we want to get rid of this. Now, also, where the boards are going to join together, we have to have nice true edges. These, in fact, are still rough. So the first thing I'm going to do is joint the edge of this board. All right, let's check that first joint. That's good. I'm going to put a witness mark across there so I don't lose track of that joint. And now I notice there's another little sliver along this edge, so we'll have to rip that and join it, and so it goes until the whole top is made up. To reinforce the joints, I'm going to install some biscuits. So I'm putting marks across each joint about every 9 inches. I also want to make sure that I keep my first mark in about 3 inches from the edge so that the biscuit won't show when I trim the top. Okay, that's half of the boards for the top put together. I'll put the other 3 together and then clamp the whole thing. All right, with any squeezed out glue removed with a damp sponge, we'll set this aside to dry and start making the rails.
Order a home video of the project you've just seen Norm build, complete with a measured drawing and materials list. Call toll-free 1-800-892-0110. The price is $24.95 plus shipping and handling. Get the measured drawing alone for only $10. The number again is 1-800-892-0110.
Once a year, something phenomenal happens. Lane's National Reclining Furniture Sale. Every style of Lane reclining furniture is making its way to the Lane dealer nearest you, bringing you overwhelming comfort and epic savings. The final destination, your home, where the comfort goes on and on and on and on.
When the toughest cold strikes, Kleenex presents the softest tissue now made even softer. Cold Care Ultra Comfort. The 3-layer system now places even softer layers on the outside. So Cold Care Ultra Comfort gives you the softest, most gentle touch without lotions or perfumes. And that's very comforting. Improved Cold Care Ultra Comfort. It's all your nose needs.
Come on, get the bus, Skipper. Gotta be the dog chow.
Using Purina's advanced scientific knowledge, dog chow includes an optimal level of omega fatty acids to promote a thick, shiny coat and help maintain a healthy immune system. Dog chow, complete nutrition for a healthy dog inside and out. Incredible dog food, incredible dogs. Purina Dog Chow brand.
It's not just a house, it's your home. A place where your own personal style can really shine through. So at Hancock Fabrics, we offer a complete selection of fabrics for your home in a wide variety of colors, textures, and styles. Just imagine the possibilities. Home decorating with a personal touch. It's just our way to help make your house a home. Hancock Fabrics, America's fabric store.
Whoa, remember this place and those midnight snacks?
Cindy! Let's have 2 dogs with the works.
Hey, I can't have one of those now. Watching your figure? No, I didn't take my Pepsid AC, and it's too late now.
Take my Tagamet. You can eat now.
Tagamet introduces a better way to avoid heartburn. Not before, not after, now. Now you can take Tagamet right when you're going to eat and still prevent heartburn.
Mindy?
You two, back again?
Mindy! With Tagamet, you can eat like a kid again.
Now here are the 4 boards for the rails. And I surface planed the rough stock, ripped and jointed the edges, and cut them to length, just as I did with the pieces for the top. The next thing I want to do is form tenons on each end of each rail. So I've set up a stop block, which will guide the shoulder cut to be 1.5 inches from the end. I've adjusted the height of the blade to 3/16 of an inch, and I'm going to use my miter gauge to guide the piece through. Now I'm going to raise the saw up to a 1/2 inch depth. With the blade set at that height, I'll now cut the shoulders at the edges of the tenon. The bandsaw does a great job removing the rest of the material at the edges of the tenons. Now back at the table saw, using my tenoning jig, I can make the cheek cuts, which will complete each tenon. Now this 1/4 inch groove at the top edge of each rail on the inside will receive wooden clips to secure the top. Now the only thing that holds the pieces of the base together is a little bit of glue on the tenons and in each tenon slot. Well, now we're ready to trim the top. So I've installed this straight edge clamp, which will guide the base of my small circular saw so I get a nice straight cut. Now, by placing the freshly trimmed edge against my table saw's rip fence, I can trim the opposite end. Now I'm going to move the rip fence in 1/8 of an inch and retrim the end that I cut with the circular saw. I'm going to round over each corner of the top with a 4.5-inch radius curve, and I'll make the cut with my jigsaw. To ease the edges of my top, I'm using a 3/8-inch radius roundover bit, but only the lower portion of it. Now here I'm starting to form the clips to hold the top, and I've just rabbited this piece of 1-inch thick stock. Now I've trimmed it off to be about 1.5 inches long, and I'll need 8 of those. Now the clips couldn't be easier to install. They slip into the groove that I milled in each rail, and I attach them with a screw in a pre-drilled hole. Now the placement of the clips is critical. I can put as many clips as I want along the end grain of the boards because they don't expand along the grain. But across the grain, there can be a lot of expansion with changes in temperature. So I'll only put one right in the middle. All right, a little final hand sanding along the edges, and we'll be ready for a finish. Before I applied any finish to our antique chestnut, I ran a sample. And here's the piece that I started with. It has about 5 coats of an oil finish on it, and you can see that it immediately makes the wood darker, and it brings out all the characteristics, the wormholes and the defects, which is exactly what I wanted. Now, if you look at the end grain, you can see how deeply the oil penetrated into the wood, and that's good because it helps to condition the wood and preserve the wood, keeping it from drying out further. Now, we're going to need a lot of coats. I expect 5 or 6 coats before I'm done. I'll put a coat on, let it soak in and dry, and apply another coat. And I want to make sure that I treat all surfaces, the underside of the top, the inside of the rails, and all the outer surfaces. Well, the final step in finishing our coffee table is to buff the oil finish. Now, I applied about 5 coats of oil and let it dry completely. With every coat, more and more of the character of the wood emerged. Now, to maintain the table, a couple coats of clear wax every year should do the job. Now, everyone who sees this piece wants at least 2.